Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I want to talk about a task force that we executed on the chronically employed. So back in March, Governor Baker had talked to us about a number of things around job training, job opportunities in the Commonwealth. I think we all know that the Commonwealth's at 4.7% unemployment rate, but yet there's 166,000 plus individuals unemployed within the Commonwealth. If you look within that number, there are chronically unemployed populations who historically continue to have double the unemployment rate based on populations that they represent. And so the governor signed this executive order, and we agreed to look at the barriers facing the chronically unemployed population. We're talking about Latinos, we're talking about African Americans, persons with disabilities, Gulf War vets coming back, and obviously youth is in that equation as well. We didn't specifically look at it, but certainly the long-term unemployed play a major role in that area as well. So we had a panel task force, around 13 individuals, we had economists, people from the education community, community-based organizations and businesses to really do a deep dive throughout the Commonwealth to understand what are the real barriers to unemployment for these target populations. And obviously there are some common ones, right? Just lack of access, lack of skills and training, soft skills, which the governor calls hard skills, are very prevalent when you talk to individuals trying to hire people. Persons with disability, we'll talk about a number of things, including transportation and continuation of services. And I think if you talk to the community-based organizations, they also will say that they need to be able to partner more with the Commonwealth and have a continuity of services.
We're the first administration, to the best of my knowledge, that's ever created a program to invest in capital so that vocational and technical schools can update and modernize their equipment and their operations. And for example, we took a bunch of disparate little programs and mushed them together and created about a $10 million capital grant program. And we launched grants on this about a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And they were most of them went to places like the New England Center for Culinary Arts and a number of the Bristol Plymouth Folk Tech, which I was down visiting yesterday. And almost all of them were around updating equipment or buying additional equipment to expand some of their existing programming. And I'm going to talk a bit about our economic development bill in a second, but one of the things that's in that is a $75 million commitment to matching capital grants to vocational and technical schools and other job training operations so that they can modernize or expand their existing facility and their existing equipment, because many of these places have tremendous capacity to serve populations that need to build skills that make it possible for them to qualify to be an apprentice or a journeyman and get into some of these unions and chase some of these opportunities. And it's a matching grant program, okay? $75 million capital matching grant program. The state is going to be the lion's share of the match, okay? But to qualify, it's going to be a competitive bid. And this was true for the first round of grants that Ron's folks did. To be successful on this, you got to have an employer or a group of employers who are ponying something up as well, whether it's hard dollars or in kind or earn while you learn or some of that other stuff. But the idea here is what you really want to be doing is you want to be incentivizing the career and technical folks and the community college piece folks to literally reach out to employers, new economy employers or others, and to say to them, we have this opportunity to get an 80% piece from the Commonwealth, okay? But to get the 80% piece from the Commonwealth, we need 10% from you in either, in-kind stuff, teaching resources, whatever it is to make this, or, hard money to make this thing work. And the beauty of that first round of grants we did was all of them had really deep connectivity to employers who were going to hire these folks when they came out of the program. It was really cool. There's real possibility here. Yeah.
Yes, Governor. I'm Harrison from Ajabu Africa News. It's clear that your administration has done a lot of work in putting together programs that are great, like that. But the thing is, in most of the ethnic communities, they don't get to be aware of these programs, so they don't benefit. And what was that gentleman was saying is that there's a disconnect, and And in my opinion, one of the main problems we have in ethnic communities is that they don't have any well-developed community-based association other than churches. Although these people are a lot of people in the state. So one of the problems to run community-based organizations in ethnic communities is some people come together, try to set up an organization, but then they are spending their own money to pay for office rent, to pay for their time being there, trying to bring people together. But then nobody compensates them for that. And sometimes I wonder if there's a way that the state or your administration would create a program or a fund to help develop community-based organizations in ethnic communities that can now connect with these larger organizations. Some of the churches have 20 people, some have 400 people. How can we bridge that gap?
Well, I'm sure Havas has some thoughts on this, and I may ask him to offer them. But one thing, the Mass Capital Growth Fund, which is a state fund that writes small checks, sort of 50 to 250,000, is that about right?
That's right.
To locally based organizations, is probably a resource that some folks could access. Part of the issue may be that people don't know about it, okay? That's part of why we're here, is to hope that you folks can help us increase the size of the megaphone to communicate with people about some of the opportunities that are available there. I know that Havas, when we were talking about expanding the procurement and simplifying the procurement process, held a ton of community-based meetings in communities all over the Commonwealth, primarily in communities of color. And you had pretty good attendance at those things, didn't you?
We had about 1,000 business owners that came together in Lawrence, New Bedford, Springfield, Worcester, and Roxbury. And since it was the initial sort of unveiling of these convenings, we are strengthening it this year by really doing a partnership with those cities. We wanted to do it before the winter came, not knowing that it was going to be a warmer winter. So
Well, that's because my winter resiliency plan worked so
worked
well.
out.
Yeah.
But we will have the schedule in the next few weeks, and it's a real partnership between agencies such as Massport and the Commonwealth, as well as the municipalities that are not those same municipalities, but instead of Lawrence, we'll go to Lowell. Instead of, we're probably going to have to go to Springfield again, but instead of New Bedford, we'll go to Fall River. And I think, some of the initiatives that Secretary Walker just talked about, I know just in the last few days, we were preparing for an Access and Opportunity Steering Committee, which actually happened earlier today around 3 p.m. One of the ideas is how can we leverage the Workforce Skills Cabinet, Governor, which you created last year to think about the supply side of construction-based works, to your point, Alberto. So I think that, there's various initiatives that we're trying to be very proactive, very much reaching out. I know that Hadari is also working really closely with the gateway cities, and that our community relations efforts are also very much integrating the churches wherever possible.
So whenever we have a public meeting around that stuff, do we tell everybody who's in this room about that in advance? I got some yeses, but I got a bunch of no's.
Well, we're also, next month, we're starting our Gateway City Tour, so we're gonna be coming to each gateway city to deliver information throughout the Secretariat. So we'll have a revolving cycle starting in Western Mass and in Eastern Mass, but we'll touch all the gateway cities. So at each stop, we'll have information that's going on in the administration, and we'll also be getting information from the communities to bring back to the administration.
Most
So
of
we're
these
gonna increase
communities,
the
most of
flow.
these cities have people whose fundamental responsibility is to serve as the primary sort of connection to a lot of their local ethnic business leaders and organizations. Yes or no? No, okay. I mean, this is, we should sit down and talk about this, because this issue, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, then it didn't, it doesn't matter. This is a legitimate issue, and we've talked about this once or twice before. We now have a bunch of things that we're starting to do that I think have some real potential to be successful if we can get them in front of the right people. We should have a meeting about this.